5 years. 5 long years dedicating every minute of my day to this company. Overtime, sacrificed weekends, projects handed in ahead of schedule. All for this moment. The Apex Technologies party hall was lit up with golden and blue lights, the corporate colors that had become part of my identity. Champagne glasses clinked as I watched my coworkers chatting excitedly. Nathan, our CEO, had put together this event to announce the long-awaited promotion to Senior Operations Manager. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to get access to more stories like this. Got it, I thought, adjusting my carefully chosen black blazer for the evening. Nathan's hints over the past few weeks had been clear. Lauren, you are the backbone of this company, he would say during meetings. I don't know what we'd do without your dedication. Melissa, my coworker from the finance department, came over with 2 champagne glasses. To the future senior manager, she toasted, winking. No one deserves it more than you. I smiled, accepting my glass. It's not official yet. Everyone already knows it's you. Who else could it be? Heather doesn't even know where the coffee machine is. Heather. Hired only 3 months ago. A Harvard grad, always dressed impeccably and with a laugh that echoed down the halls whenever Nathan told his lame jokes. Talented, yes, but inexperienced. The murmuring in the room quieted when Nathan climbed onto the small improvised stage. His Italian suit reflected the spotlight as he adjusted the microphone. Thank you all for being here on this special night. Apex Technologies wouldn't be the market leader without the talent and dedication of every one of you. My heart raced. This was the moment. As you all know, we are constantly evolving. We need leaders who bring not just experience, but new perspectives and revolutionary ideas. There was something in the way he briefly looked to the side that gave me a slight discomfort. It is with great pleasure that I announce our new Senior Operations Manager, Heather Jensen. Time froze. Applause reached my ears from afar as if I were underwater. Heather gracefully walked up to the stage, her red dress standing out against my conservative black blazer. Thank you, Nathan. I am honored with this opportunity and I promise to bring innovation to Apex. I forced a smile as Melissa squeezed my arm in solidarity. Nathan continued, Heather brings the fresh perspective we needed. Lauren, he pointed directly at me, and every head turned, you should take some notes from her. Sometimes we have to unlearn to grow. Polite laughs filled the hall. My face burned, but I kept my smile frozen. The party went on. I congratulated Heather with a mechanical smile. I moved through the room with my water glass disguised as champagne, receiving pitying looks from the closest colleagues. In the bathroom, I took a deep breath in front of the mirror. I wouldn't shed a single tear. I opened my phone and found the email I had ignored 3 times over the past few weeks. Brandon Walker, the ex-CFO that Nathan had fired last year, wanted to hire me for his new company. With steady fingers, I replied, Brandon, are you still interested? Can we talk tomorrow? His answer came in seconds, absolutely. Lunch at noon? I went back to the party with renewed purpose. I watched Nathan boasting to the investors. I watched Heather accepting congratulations. I smiled, toasted, and joined in. At home, I drafted my resignation letter. Professional, succinct, with no explicit grievances. I scheduled the email to be sent at 8 a.m. on Monday. Then I opened my laptop and started organizing my files. Reports I had created, strategies I had developed, client contacts that I had personally nurtured. On Monday, I arrived earlier than usual. The confirmation message for my resignation popped up on my phone screen exactly at 8 a.m. At 8:07, Nathan appeared at my office door, his normally confident face now showing confusion. Lauren, what's this story? Is this some kind of joke? No, Nathan. I got an offer I couldn't refuse. But you didn't even consult me. We can always work on a counteroffer. Like you did with the promotion I deserved. His face hardened. So that's it. You're leaving because Heather got the job. I thought you were more professional. Professionalism is exactly why I'm leaving. I have a new opportunity that values my experience and competence. Brandon Walker's company? Please, they won't even last a year in the market. I began emptying my drawer. Maybe you're right. Or maybe not. In any case, I wish you and Heather success. Brandon Walker's office was in a modern building in the financial district, 20 floors above the urban chaos. The receptionist smiled when she saw me. Ms. Collins. Mr. Walker is waiting for you. Top floor, room on the right. The glass elevator offered a view reminding me just how much bigger the city was than my problems at Apex. When the doors opened, Brandon was already waiting in the corridor. Lauren. Welcome to Walker Innovations. His handshake was firm, nothing like Nathan's hesitant greetings. Let me show you your office before you meet the team. My office. Brandon smiled. Of course. As our new director of operations, you need an appropriate space. Director. Not manager, director. The title I had never even dreamed of at Apex. My office was spacious, with a glass wall that showcased the city skyline. A solid oak desk, an ergonomic chair, and top-of-the-line technology. Nothing fancy, just efficient and elegant. I know you'll want to personalize everything, Brandon commented. But I wanted you to start with the essentials. It's perfect, I replied, still absorbing the title. Director of Operations? Are you sure it's not an overstatement for my qualifications? Brandon folded his arms. Lauren, I've followed your work at Apex for years. I know exactly what you built there, often without getting the credit you deserved. Nathan never appreciated the value he had in his hands. The meeting with the team reinforced that perception. 12 attentive faces, all watching me without the skepticism I had faced so many times at Apex when presenting new ideas. This is Lauren Collins, our new Director of Operations, Brandon announced. She brings a decade of experience in the industry, including 5 years at Apex Technologies. Her knowledge of process optimization and client relations will be crucial for our expansion. A young team member raised her hand. What will our strategy be to compete with giants like Apex? Before I could answer, Brandon intervened. That's exactly the question Lauren will address in the coming weeks. Your first mission is to assess where we are and determine where we should go. At the end of the meeting, Brandon stayed by my side. I want you to understand something, Lauren. I hired you for your talent, not for revenge against Nathan. Although, he smiled, I won't deny it will be satisfying when we start outperforming Apex in some areas. I didn't come for revenge, I replied honestly. I came for the opportunity. My first week passed in a whirlwind of meetings and data analyses. Unlike at Apex where every suggestion had to go through layers of approval, here my decisions were implemented almost immediately. On Thursday, I received a message from Melissa, "We miss you." Heather tried to present the quarterly report today. It was a disaster. Nathan pretended everything was fine, but the investors asked questions she couldn't answer. I didn't reply. Not out of malice, but because I was busy preparing our strategy for approaching corporate clients, exactly the specialty I had developed at Apex. At the beginning of the second week, Brandon walked into my office with an intrigued look. Marshall Enterprises just reached out. They want a proposals presentation. I raised my eyebrows. Marshall? Haven't they been exclusive partners with Apex for years? Exactly. Apparently, they were dissatisfied with the last meeting. They mentioned your name specifically. A surge of satisfaction ran down my spine, but I maintained my composure. I have a great relationship with their board. We worked together on the last integrated project. The meeting is on Thursday. Want to lead? Absolutely. The presentation for Marshall was impeccable. Our design team created impressive visuals and I knew the client's needs better than anyone. When we finished, Marshall's CEO, Mr. Thompson, came over. Impressive as always, Lauren. We missed you at the last meeting with Apex. Thank you, Mr. Thompson. Here at Walker, I have the freedom to implement the ideas I've always believed in. Well, I think we'll have a lot to discuss in the coming weeks. 3 days later, Marshall Enterprises signed a 2-year contract with Walker Innovations, ending a 7-year partnership with Apex. Melissa sent me another message. The office is a mess. Marshall cancelled the contract. Nathan is furious, yelling at everyone. He blamed Heather for the poor presentation, but everyone knows you were the one keeping that client. For the first time, I replied, I didn't steal anyone. Clients make their own decisions based on who offers the best service. I know. I just thought you'd like to know that your value is finally being recognized, even if it's in the worst way possible for Nathan. One Friday afternoon, 3 months after my departure from Apex, I was finalizing a proposal when my assistant announced over the intercom, Ms. Collins, there's a Nathan Reynolds insisting on speaking with you. He doesn't have an appointment. My heart raced. Send him in. Nathan looked different. His perfectly tailored Italian suit was the same, but there were shadows under his eyes and a tension in his shoulders I had never noticed before. Lauren, he tried to smile as he entered. Your office is impressive. Thank you. Please, have a seat. What can I do for you? He hesitated, clearly uncomfortable being in my territory. I'm here to propose a partnership. Partnership? Between Apex and Walker. I believe we could create an interesting synergy on some projects. I examined his face. Is this the board's idea? Nathan visibly crumbled. We've lost 30% of our revenue since you left. The board is pushing for solutions. Some suggested that we should rehire you at any cost. And you came here offering my old job. Actually, he straightened up, I came to offer you the role of Vice President of Operations. Twice your current salary, profit sharing, and full authority over your department. 3 months ago, I would have sold my soul for an offer like that. Now, looking at Nathan in my office, I could see how much I had grown since then. Nathan, I appreciate the offer, but I'm committed to Walker Innovations. Lauren, be reasonable. We know you've done a great job here, but Apex is still a market leader. Think about your long-term career. I am thinking. And my future is here. He switched tactics. Heather quit last week. She was out of her depth. I'm sorry to hear that. The board is questioning my judgment now. If you came back, it would be a statement of my leadership. There it was, finally. Nathan didn't want my talent, he just wanted to save his own reputation. As you said at the party, sometimes we have to unlearn to grow, I replied calmly. I suggest you take some notes on how to value the talent you have before you lose even more. Nathan paled hearing his own words thrown back at him. For a moment, it seemed like he was going to explode in anger, but then his shoulders slumped. You're right. I made a terrible mistake with you. Not only professionally, but personally. I didn't recognize your value, and now we're all paying for it. His sincerity surprised me, but it didn't change my decision. I wish Apex success, Nathan. I really do. But my place is here now. He stood up, defeated. If you change your mind, I won't. After he left, I stared out the window. I wasn't happy about Nathan's suffering, I simply felt a calm satisfaction for having found my own worth. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. Lauren, it was Brandon, I just ran into Nathan in the lobby. He looked dejected. He came to try and rehire me. And I declined. I never doubted it. His voice carried confidence. We're finalizing the acquisition of Meridian Tech. We need your operational analysis by Monday. I'll be ready. 2 weeks after Nathan's visit, Brandon invited me to lunch at a discreet restaurant near the office. The place had a sophisticated atmosphere, but nothing flashy, exactly how Walker Innovations positions itself in the market. We're growing faster than planned, Brandon said as he looked over the menu. Investors are blown away by our quarterly results. The team has been working so hard, I replied. The operations department finally found its rhythm. Brandon closed the menu and looked at me seriously. You know you're more than just that, Lauren. Since you arrived, you have transformed the company. Our client retention rate has increased 40%, and the new contracts exceed all projections. I took a sip of water, uncomfortable with such direct praise, even after months away from Apex where my work was rarely acknowledged. I received an interesting call this morning, Brandon continued. From Howard Keller. I nearly choked. Howard Keller was the chairman of the board at Apex Technologies. What did he want? He asked about you, mostly. How you're performing, if you're happy, if you'd be open to proposals. Brandon smiled. Naturally, I told him that you're crucial to our operation and that we would do anything to keep you. He mentioned Nathan? Not directly, but he made it clear they're considering changes in the executive leadership. Our lunch was interrupted by a call from Melissa. I hesitated, but answered. Lauren, I thought you should know. Nathan was called into an emergency board meeting this morning. He hasn't come back, and his assistant is clearing out his office. I thanked her for the information and hung up, passing the news on to Brandon. I'm not surprised, he commented. Apex lost 18% of its market value last quarter. Investors must be pushing for changes. It wasn't my intention to cause this, I admitted, feeling an unexpected twinge of guilt. Brandon raised an eyebrow. You didn't cause anything. Nathan reaped what he sowed when he underestimated your value and treated client relationships as secondary. I agreed, though a part of me still worried about the Apex employees who might be affected by this turbulence. The next morning, the news was on every financial portal. Apex Technologies' CEO ousted by the board after record client losses. My phone wouldn't stop ringing old coworkers, industry friends, even specialized journalists looking for comments. I ignored all the calls except Melissa's. It's a mess here, she said in a hushed voice like she was speaking from a private room. Howard Keller has taken over as interim CEO. They're auditing every department. And Nathan? He was escorted out by security. I heard he tried to argue that the client loss was temporary, but when Howard showed the migration numbers to Walker, he didn't have an answer. I ended the call with mixed feelings. I didn't feel joy at Nathan's downfall, but I couldn't deny a sense of poetic justice. That afternoon, I received an unexpected email. From howard.keller@apextech.com. Subject: Invitation for a dialogue. Dear Ms. Collins, I would like to invite you for an informal meeting to discuss the future of the industry and possible collaborations between our companies. Your perspective would be extremely valuable during this time of transition. Sincerely, Howard Keller, Interim CEO, Apex Technologies. I showed the email to Brandon during our executive meeting. Interesting, he pondered. I think they want to gauge the possibility of bringing you back. I'm not interested in returning, I stated firmly. Even if they offered you the CEO position, asked our CFO. That question caught me off guard. Apex CEO? The thought had never even crossed my mind. Even so, I replied after a moment of thought. I'd rather build something new here than try to fix something broken over there. Brandon smiled approvingly. Even so, I think you should meet him. You never know what collaborative opportunities might come up. I agreed to schedule the meeting in a neutral setting, a quiet coffee shop in the financial district. Howard Keller was a man in his 60s, with impeccably combed grey hair and keen eyes that seemed to analyze everything. Ms. Collins, thank you for accepting my invitation, he began after initial greetings. I admire the work you've been doing at Walker Innovations. Thank you, Mr. Keller. I must admit, I was surprised by your call. I can imagine. I'll get straight to the point. We made a grave error by letting you go from Apex. The board failed to properly monitor Nathan's talent management decisions. I maintained a neutral expression. Corporations often underestimate the value of human capital. Exactly. He studied me over his coffee cup. Nathan created a culture of self-promotion that valued loyalty over competence. The results speak for themselves. And now, we are completely restructuring our leadership. Shareholders demand a drastic change in direction. I nodded, waiting for the inevitable. I would like to invite you to return to Apex as our new CEO. Even as I anticipated the offer, the impact of the proposal hit me hard. CEO of the company where I had been overlooked and humiliated just 6 months before. It's a surprising offer, I answered carefully. But I'm committed to Walker Innovations. Howard didn't seem surprised. I expected your response. That's why I have an alternative proposal, a strategic partnership between Apex and Walker on specific projects. We could combine our strengths instead of competing directly in some markets. That approach interested me more. What kind of partnership do you have in mind? We talked for almost 2 hours, outlining possibilities that could benefit both companies. Howard had interesting ideas about how we could collaborate without compromising our independence. At the end of our meeting, I promised to discuss the proposals with Brandon and get back with our position. As we said our goodbyes, Howard made one final comment. You know, Lauren, when the board analyzed our client losses, one pattern stood out. Not a single client left Apex because of lower prices or superior technology from the competition. They left because of the relationships, specifically, the relationships you built. People trust you, and that matters more than any technological innovation. His words stayed with me on the way back to the office. The recognition I had always sought at Apex had finally arrived, but in a way I never imagined. In the meeting with Brandon and the executive team, I presented the strategic partnership proposal. After a thorough discussion, we agreed that an alliance on specific projects could benefit both companies. One last thing, I mentioned at the end of the meeting. Howard also offered the CEO position of Apex. Brandon raised his eyebrows. Impressive. And you turned it down? Yes. My place is here. He nodded, clearly satisfied. I'm glad with your decision, though not surprised. You've always shown loyalty to your principles, not to titles or status. 2 months later, we finalized the strategic partnership between Walker Innovations and Apex Technologies on a joint project for the federal government, the largest contract either company had ever landed on its own. At the celebration reception, I spotted Nathan talking with some executives in a corner. He looked thinner, with pronounced dark circles. I later learned from Melissa that he had managed to land a consultant position at a smaller firm. Our eyes met for a brief moment. He hesitated, then subtly nodded his head, a small gesture of acknowledgement. I returned the nod, without any resentment. Howard came over with 2 champagne glasses. A historic partnership, he toasted. And to think it all started with one of Nathan's disastrous decisions. I prefer to think it started with an opportunity, I replied. Sometimes you need a push to find your true path. Interesting philosophy for someone so young, Howard observed. By the way, the board still has the offer open for you. The door is never closed. I smiled and thanked him politely while watching Brandon animatedly talking with clients across the room. Walker Innovations was steadily growing, with plans to expand into international markets next year. My team had doubled in size, and we had implemented innovations that were transforming our industry. I appreciate the offer, Howard, but I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Later that night, as I gazed out at the city lights from my office window, I reflected on the journey of the past 6 months. The public humiliation, the decision to leave, the challenging restart, and finally the recognition that exceeded every initial expectation. It wasn't revenge that brought me here, though in the beginning there might have been a desire to prove my worth. It was the courage to recognize my own merit when others failed to do so. It was the decision not to define myself by others' judgments, but by the knowledge of what I could contribute. The phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. It was Brandon. I just received confirmation the expansion into the Asian market was approved by the board. We'll need a global executive operations director. There was a significant pause. Interested? I smiled at the city skyline. Absolutely. Subscribe to the channel and leave your like to get access to more stories like this. As I hung up, I realized that the best revenge was never to make Nathan or Apex pay for underestimating me. It was completely transcending that experience and turning it into fuel for something greater than I ever would have achieved by staying there. The true professional revenge wasn't in Nathan's downfall, but in my own rise. Not in proving him wrong, but in proving that I was right about myself.